The Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Diego Castro. Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalong claims lawmakers continue to enjoy pork barrel funds. The Priority Development Assistance Fund, commonly known as Pork Barrel, was abolished in 2013. Speaking to the big story, Magalong remarked that despite contrary claims, pork barrel still persists in Congress. He stressed that lawmakers are managing billions of pesos concealed in various departments. Magalong said this amid the push for reforms in the pension system for military and uniformed personnel in a bid to address the country's fiscal crisis. The former police general says MUPs are willing to contribute for their pensions, but he notes that congressmen must also do their part and help solve the country's financial crisis.
If you look at the way we're doing our budget, we're wondering why is it that, despite the fact that there's a denial that there is something like a pork barrel, but the truth of the matter is when you talk to congressmen, I have my own inside information. Pork barrels still exist, And unfortunately, billions of pesos are being managed by our legislators, and it's just hidden in the different departments.
Magalong further also noted that among government agencies, the Department of Public Works and Highways is where a significant portion of funds is parked by corrupt lawmakers. However, he did not disclose the source of this information.
Isa sa pinaka-paborito nilang pinaglalagyan, the PWH. Every time I had an opportunity to talk to the different mayors and governors, we share our frustrations, especially on substandard projects.
To fight corruption, Magalong said that he will be leading a movement on good governance and said that it's high time to raise awareness of the correlation of corruption and poverty. Magalong also claimed that the military and PNP are behind him on this move.
We have to continue raising awareness on the ill effects of corruption and its correlation to poverty. We're getting a lot of support now coming from the different CSOs. I'm getting a lot of feedback coming from cooperatives, from fellow mayors who also believe in good governance. I would say a big number of them are behind us in advocating this movement on good governance.
Speaking of Congress, President Marcos convenes the Legislative Executive Development Advisory Council, or LEDA, to discuss his administration's priority bills weeks before his second State of the Nation address. During the meeting, Senate President Mig Zubiri says the upper house proposed to add 9 more priority bills on top of the 42 proposals already listed. Among the 9 proposed priority measures are the Philippine Defense Industry Development Act and the Cybersecurity Law. The Senate is also pushing for the prioritization of amendments to the procurement provisions of the AFP Modernization Act. Meanwhile, the lower chamber proposed 15 additional bills on agriculture, industry and services, infrastructure, digital regulatory frameworks, and transport, among others. These include the excise tax on single-use plastic, the Sustainable Urban Mobility Act, and the Act rationalizing motor vehicle users' charge. Already included in the list of priority measures of the Marcos administration is the proposed pension reform for military and uniformed personnel. Water level at the Angat Dam inches dangerously closer to the critical level. According to Pag-asa's monitoring, the water level at Angat Dam was measured at 180.89 meters as of this morning, July 6. That's barely a meter away from the minimum operating level. According to the National Water Resources Board, they are now closely monitoring the situation at Angat. The NWRB said it would prioritize water supply for households rather than irrigation once water level touches the 180-meter mark. Despite this, water concessionaires may still be forced to implement rotational water interruptions. The NWRB yesterday hinted that it could further reduce water allocation for water concessionaires to 48 cubic meters per second That's lower than the current allocation of 50 cubic meters per second. The board is set to meet with stakeholders and come up with a decision on or before July 15. We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Diego Castro. The Supreme Court affirms the unconstitutionality of an 18-year-old joint oil and gas exploration deal of the country with China and Vietnam. The tripartite deal, called the Joint Marine Seismic Undertaking, involved an area in the South China Sea, covering over 140,000 square meters. The court had earlier declared the agreement unconstitutional for allowing the participation of wholly owned foreign corporations. Under the Constitution, the exploration, development, and utilization of natural resources shall be under the full control of the state. In denying the motion for reconsideration, the SC said the deal is unconstitutional since it involves an exploration of natural resources. The High Court noted that it provides for joint research of petroleum resource potential, which is clearly exploration. The court added that the deal does not give the state full control and supervision over information about our natural resources, and that the government would need prior written consent from China and Vietnam before it could disclose any of the information acquired. The Foreign Affairs Department vows faster processing of tourist visas for Chinese nationals. The DFA says this is to encourage more tourists from Beijing to visit the Philippines. According to the DFA, the government will prioritize visas for tour groups from Chinese tour operators accredited by the DFA and Tourism Department. The DFA acknowledges that easier approval for tourist visas opens risks to crime and security. However, the agency assures that it has set measures in place to ensure that non-legitimate tourists will not be able to enter the country.
While you have noticed the measures adopted to encourage that arrivals by facilitating their application for visa, making it as comfortable, convenient, fast, even using technology to allow us to do that, you may notice that there are also certain safety nets to make sure that it doesn't open the floodgates to non-legitimate tourists or visitors.
While the DFA assures that visa applications go through strict screening, monitoring the tourist activities in the country is something beyond the agency's hands and mandate.
Their function is limited to the issuance of the visa. What that means, therefore, is if the application is in accordance with our regulations, then a visa will be issued. The matter of monitoring how they end up or where they go will now rest on the shoulders of our domestic law enforcement agencies.
Cinemalaya has officially announced a finalist for its 19th edition. Full-length films include Gitling, Tether, Ang Duyan ng Magiting, Bulawan na Usa, Rookie, Huling Palabas, When This Is All Over, As If It's True, as well as documentary Maria and animated feature Iti Mapukpukaw. 10 short films will also be shown during the festival. These works will feature stories about family, adventure, and even zombies. The entries will be screened at the Philippine International Convention Center or PICC. As Cinemalaya's traditional venue, the Cultural Center of the Philippines is currently under rehabilitation. The films will be shown from August 4 to 13 in selected theaters in Metro Manila. This is the first time that the film festival will feature full-length documentary and animated film entries.
Matagal na namin yung na-realize na dapat, because documentaries are very, very important. And there are feature documentaries. Pelikula na rin ngayon yan eh. So, we've been really waiting for a good submission. So, nakakuha kami na isa ngayon. Masasabi ko, it's groundbreaking in that sense that despite the difficulties and the uncertainty of the pandemic period, tinuloy nila yung kanilang mga projects.
Among the stars of two of the full-length entries is BAFTA and Golden Globe nominee Dolly De Leon. She is part of Ang Duyan ng Magiting and Iti Mapukpukaw. Dolly said she is delighted to be working on independent films again. After her international success with Triangle of Sadness, the actress also recently became an official member of the Academy, the voting body that casts votes for various categories at the prestigious Academy or Oscar Awards.
Dito sa Itimapukpuka, first animated ng Cinemalaya, first animated ko. Sa buong buhay ko. Na lumabas sa animated feature, bucket list ko yon. Yung pangalawa is Duyan ng Magiting, tungkol sa social injustice naman ng Duyan ng Magiting. Feels like we have a voice, parang finally we have a voice. Kasi yun yung mundong matagal na nating tinatry na i-penetrate. So, I feel like maririnig na tayo ngayon.
And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us again at 10:30 a.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. I'm Diego Castro. We are One News. All sides, all the time.